As District Attorney for the 19th Circuit Court District of Mississippi, I want to talk directly to the people of Jackson County.
18-year-old Nolan Wells disappeared on the 4th of July. The people he traveled with returned from Horn Island, but Nolan never came home. Just 2 days later, search teams recovered his body from the water. Yet what unfolded during those missing hours has transformed this case into something far more disturbing than anyone first imagined. 13 hours passed before the Coast Guard was finally contacted. Then, after nearly 3 weeks of public silence, the district attorney stepped forward with a statement. She confirmed the autopsy has been sealed. She also revealed that investigators are not discussing the case publicly. Then came another major announcement. The evidence would be presented to a grand jury. But there was one statement the public expected to hear, and it never came. 3 simple words that could have answered countless questions. It was an accident. Instead, that silence seemed to raise even more questions than the briefing itself. And now, a former Mississippi judge is making remarks that many believe could completely change the way this case is being viewed.
So understand that many people have questions about why more information has not been released publicly. In Mississippi, the rules of professional conduct restrict the information a prosecutor can release during an investigation. Our restraint in communicating facts and evidence is not an effort to keep the truth from the public. It is an effort to protect the integrity of this investigation and the grand jury proceeding, carefully, without compromise, supported by the evidence, and worthy of the confidence of the people we serve.
He argues that the information already public goes beyond raising questions and may already meet the threshold for criminal charges involving multiple people. It's a serious claim, but after hearing what the district attorney said and what she intentionally didn't say, you'll understand why his remarks are getting so much attention. If you follow true crime investigations, subscribe now because this case is still developing and major updates could happen at any time. For nearly 3 weeks, District Attorney Angel Myers McGilrath remained completely silent. Nolan Wells, an 18-year-old football player from Mississippi, was found dead near Horn Island on July 6th after disappearing during a July 4th trip. The group he traveled with had returned without him 2 days earlier. As Nolan's family searched for answers and public pressure grew, there were no official updates. Supporters launched the Justice for Nolan movement, demanding transparency, but the silence continued. Finally, on July 23rd, McGilrath released a public video. Many expected new details, but instead, her statement highlighted something equally important. In criminal investigations, what prosecutors don't reveal can matter just as much as what they do. She made 3 key points. First, all agencies involved were instructed to stop making public comments because grand jury rules prevent discussing evidence or witness interviews. The investigation has reached a stage where officials are legally limited in what they can say. That became clear when Sheriff John Ledbetter was asked for an update. His only response was, "actively under investigation." The district attorney also said the silence isn't meant to hide the truth, but to protect the investigation and the grand jury process. She warned that answering questions too soon could weaken confidence in the final outcome. Those words may reveal more about where this investigation is headed than they first appear.
So understand that many people have questions about why more information has not been released publicly. In Mississippi, the rules of professional conduct restrict the information a prosecutor can release during an investigation. Our restraint in communicating facts and evidence is not an effort to keep the truth from the public. It is an effort to protect the integrity of this investigation and the grand jury
Notice what she's actually saying. She isn't claiming there are no facts to protect. Instead, she's making it clear that certain information is being deliberately withheld under the legal safeguards that govern an active investigation. The message is unmistakable. Investigators have gathered evidence, but they are not prepared to reveal it publicly. That choice of language could offer an important clue about how prosecutors currently view the direction of this case. This is where the legal side of the investigation becomes especially significant. It's the point where routine courtroom procedure begins to look very different from the strategic decisions prosecutors make when they believe a case is still developing. Under Mississippi law, a district attorney can review an autopsy conducted by the state medical examiner, determine that the available evidence does not indicate criminal wrongdoing, publicly announce that conclusion, and close the investigation. A grand jury is not automatically required for that outcome, nor would sealing investigative material necessarily be part of that process. Those decisions make many observers focus less on what has been announced and more on the legal steps that are still unfolding behind the scenes.
Justice for Nolan Wells. Justice for Nolan Wells. Justice for Nolan. Justice for Nolan Wells. Justice for Nolan Wells. Justice for Nolan Wells. Justice for Nolan.
If investigators had already determined this was simply an accidental drowning with no signs of criminal conduct, they could have said so publicly. That would have given Nolan's family some closure. Instead, the district attorney took a different approach. The autopsy remains sealed, investigators have been told not to discuss the case, and a grand jury is now reviewing the evidence. Her statement was equally revealing. She never said wrongdoing had been ruled out, never described the case as routine, and never suggested the grand jury would take no action. Instead, she stressed that every piece of evidence, every credible lead, and every witness statement must be carefully examined. While that doesn't predict the outcome, it clearly shows the investigation is still active and important questions remain. Former Mississippi Judge Carlos Moore has repeatedly highlighted that point. Drawing on his experience in the state's legal system, he says the decision to use a grand jury is significant. Based on the evidence made public so far, Moore believes this investigation may be headed toward criminal charges, and he hasn't softened that assessment.
Other things I've stated, you piece it together. Is there enough right now for arrest warrants for murder? That is a good question.
Judge Carlos Moore argues that arrests don't have to wait for an indictment. According to him, the evidence already available publicly is enough to establish probable cause. Many people assume arrests and criminal charges happen together, but legally they are separate. A grand jury decides whether enough evidence exists to file criminal charges. Probable cause requires a lower standard, only enough reliable evidence to believe someone may have committed a crime. Once that threshold is met, investigators can make arrests while continuing the investigation. Moore believes that standard has already been met. He points to several key details. First is the boat's GPS data, which reportedly tracks where the vessel traveled, stopped, and how long it remained there. If those records conflict with witness statements, they could become important evidence. Investigators also reportedly recovered a phone, raising questions about who owned it, where it was found, and what information it may contain. Another issue involves Nolan's belongings. His father has publicly said he had to identify his son's body before personal items, including his keys, could be released, a process that has raised additional questions. Then there's the timeline that has drawn the most attention. About 13 hours reportedly passed between Nolan being reported missing and the Coast Guard being asked to begin its search. What happened during that time, who knew he was missing, and why the search was delayed remain major unanswered questions. These are documented facts: the GPS records, the recovered phone, Nolan's father's public statements, and official Coast Guard records. Taken together, Moore believes they establish probable cause. Yet no arrests have been announced. Why? Prosecutors may be building the strongest possible case before acting. The grand jury also gives them additional investigative tools, including subpoena power and sworn testimony. It's also possible that sealed evidence, such as the autopsy, witness interviews, and forensic findings, contains information that has not yet been made public. In major criminal investigations, timing is often strategic. Prosecutors typically wait until they believe the evidence is strong enough, while protecting the integrity of the case. This is where Judge Moore's view differs from the district attorney's. Moore believes the publicly known evidence already justifies arrests, while the district attorney continues through the grand jury process. What is certain is this: Nolan Wells traveled to Horn Island with friends, but they returned without him. 2 days later, his body was recovered. Reports say about 13 hours passed before the Coast Guard was asked to begin searching. Investigators have acknowledged evidence including GPS data, a recovered phone, and Nolan's belongings. His autopsy remains sealed, and officials have been instructed not to discuss the case publicly. Instead of declaring the case closed, prosecutors moved it to a grand jury, signaling that the investigation is still active. Jurors will review evidence not yet made public, including witness testimony, investigative findings, and the sealed autopsy before deciding whether criminal charges are warranted. The focus is no longer whether the investigation is active, but where it will lead, and whether the evidence supports future charges. Judge Moore maintains that probable cause already exists, and says arrests do not require waiting for a grand jury. He points to the boat's GPS records, the recovered phone, Nolan's belongings, and the reported 13-hour delay before the Coast Guard was notified. In his view, if witness statements conflict with objective evidence, investigators must determine why. Moore also argues that if Nolan's death had clearly been ruled an accidental drowning, the district attorney could have closed the case without a grand jury. Because prosecutors chose the grand jury instead, he believes they see unresolved issues that require deeper legal review. He summed up his opinion with the phrase, "something not clean in the milk," suggesting the investigation itself indicates unanswered questions, not that he knows exactly what happened. Moore points to the sealed autopsy, investigators' public silence, and the grand jury review as signs that prosecutors are still carefully examining the case. Not everyone agrees. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves has said he has not seen evidence of foul play. Some interpreted that as confidence in the available evidence, while others felt it was premature since the investigation remains ongoing. That creates a striking contrast. Two experienced legal figures are looking at the same publicly known evidence, but reaching very different conclusions. One says there's no evidence of foul play, while Judge Moore believes the known facts already establish probable cause for arrests. Those opposing views have become one of the biggest debates in this case. Some believe public officials are cautious to protect confidence in the legal system, while former judges have more freedom to openly challenge how an investigation is being handled. For now, the grand jury has not yet convened. Investigators are still waiting for additional forensic results, including toxicology reports from both the state and independent autopsies. Until then, the legal process continues at its own pace. What is clear is the scale of the investigation. The district attorney confirmed that local, state, and federal agencies have all been involved since Nolan was reported missing, and the Jackson County Sheriff's Office has confirmed FBI involvement. According to officials, the FBI is investigating reported interstate threats related to the case, showing that the investigation now extends beyond the events on Horn Island. The NAAP has also asked the U.S. Department of Justice to review the case, while Al Sharpton, Tyler Perry, and Terrell Owens helped establish a $125,000 reward for information leading to an arrest and conviction if charges are ultimately filed. Tyler Perry also assisted Nolan's family with funeral expenses. Prosecutors have emphasized that investigations can lead to different types of charges, including evidence tampering, obstruction, or false statements, if supported by the evidence. However, no criminal charges have been filed at this time. The district attorney says the sealed autopsy, limited public statements, and grand jury process are all intended to protect the integrity of the investigation. When the grand jury meets, jurors will review evidence that has not yet been made public before deciding whether criminal charges are warranted. For now, the investigation remains active, and prosecutors continue to gather evidence before making their next move. Whether that leads to criminal charges or another outcome remains unknown. At this time, no one has been charged in connection with Nolan Wells' death, and everyone involved is presumed innocent unless proven guilty in court. But one thing remains certain: someone knows what happened.